Hello everyone, welcome to another Weather Wednesday. Well, did you wake up and think about what is going on in the world around us for weather? Well, I did, and it has been fun to take a look at Science on a Sphere and kind of see what's going on around the world. So today, we're going to look at what we talked a little bit about last week, and then look at forecast around the world for this next week. So let's start off with Super Typhoon Goni. Super Typhoon Goni, I mentioned last week, has a potential to be a devastating hurricane, which would be a typhoon in the Western Pacific. And thankfully, it slipped a little far south of the densely populated city of Manila. And so most of Manila was spared from the intensity of Super Typhoon Goni. It did hit a couple of the southern islands head on, but so far, word is that most people, everybody is okay. There were reported about 15 fatalities because of this typhoon. Unfortunately, that did happen because of some mudslides, some landslides. Let's take a look at just some pictures that I brought, that I grabbed from this Typhoon Goni. Here we see a house that is up to its roof in a mudslide or landslide. This was caused because these islands have a lot of volcanoes. Did you know that the Philippines is home to over 300 volcanoes? 22 of those are active volcanoes, but 300 volcanoes that causes a lot of ash, causes a lot of loose soil. It also causes a very rich soil that things can grow very well. I know from personal experience, pineapple in the Philippines is very tasty, and all that is because of that volcanic ash. Also, you see the strong satellite image behind me of that typhoon as it was approaching the Philippines there. And a lot of wind and storm surge on the coast. For the most part, though, there is a lot of cleanup going on in the Philippines because of all that mud and all that rain. And that's something that I want to take a look at today is how do we know how strong these hurricanes are, and how do we know how much rain they're going to produce? Speaking of rain, we're going to take a look at the current hurricane that is going on in South America, and that is Hurricane Ida. So let's take a look at our clouds real time to see where Hurricane Ida is at currently and see what's going on. So Hurricane Ida is currently hitting Nicaragua and Honduras here in Central America. And it strengthened dramatically on Monday afternoon. It went from something like 112 millibar all the way down to 992 or 952 millibar. Anyway, it dropped 82 millibar in 48 hours. That is a big strengthening. That's where the pressure decreases a lot. And the lower the pressure in that storm, the stronger it is. So it underwent some really intense strengthening on Monday afternoon, and then as it came ashore, on Nicaragua very slowly at only about 4 or 5 miles per hour. That allows a strong storm surge and a lot of rainfall to happen over Nicaragua. So we see that storm system right here as it approaches the day before Monday. There, that's where it strengthens quite a bit right there and turns into a very strong storm as it approaches land. And then we can see right as we get into today's satellite views, we can see that it kind of falls apart. That's because it loses a lot of its energy. Because of the land there, it doesn't have that moisture, the moisture that fuels the hurricane. However, it's pouring all that moisture out onto that area. What's going to be interesting to follow is what happens to this. Is it just going to continue to fall apart, or is it going to move its way over warmer water again? And we can use Science on a Sphere we can use science on a sphere to kind of predict that or kind of take a look at that. And join me here as we look at the forecast model. If you recall, I used this forecast model to take a look at Typhoon Gani as it was approaching the Philippines last week, and was made a mention that, you know, watch out Philippines, because there's a typhoon coming, and sure enough, it did hit the Philippines. So what's going to happen to Hurricane Ida after it hits Nicaragua? So here it is right here. As it makes its way over the land, it loses energy. But what's going to happen to that low pressure system is, according to our science on a sphere model here, it's going to come back out over the Gulf of Mexico, strengthen or deepen, just like I mentioned, and then possibly head towards the Florida area. Now, scientists don't know exactly what's going to happen. There's a number of factors that are going to come into play as Hurricane Ida comes back out over the Caribbean. We do know that it's going to come out over water again. Again, that's the ingredients needed for its fuel. So it's going to strengthen as it comes out over here. How much it's going to strengthen, that's something that we're going to have to follow and keep track of. And then, because of high pressure and low pressure systems over the southeast part of the United States during this time, we don't know exactly where this hurricane is going to go once it strengthens. If you take a look at the very end here, you can kind of see it wag back and forth right here. And that's the science on a sphere not knowing exactly what's going on or what's going to happen to that hurricane. It could go this way, it could go that way. We don't know. So by next Weather Wednesday, we will definitely have another story about what's going on or what happened to Hurricane Ida. So follow us as we continue watching that storm. So back to the idea. Oh, I wanted to mention that this Hurricane Ida, precipitation, as it has been dropping all that moisture on Nicaragua and Honduras, it's producing about up to 30 inches of rain in those areas. Now stop and think about that for a minute. 30 inches of rain. If you took that and just dropped that on you, the water would be standing up, almost up to your waist. That is a lot of water from one storm system. And that's one of the most dangerous things in areas like the Philippines and in areas like Nicaragua and Honduras. The most dangerous thing is all this water. Where does it go? It causes flooding, causes landslides. So that is one of the most dangerous things about these hurricanes hitting these tropical areas, these very moist areas. So we'll have to keep an eye and see what the results are from Nicaragua and Honduras. As we look forward, let's take a look at the forecast real quick, and then I'll finish up with talking about weather, or talking about precipitation and wind. So over the United States here, as we approach the next couple of days, it looks like on November 6th and 7th, there's going to be a system on the West Coast coming through. Hopefully that will bring some moisture, some much needed moisture to California. So next week we'll take a look. I'll try to update you on all the wildfires going on in California, Colorado, and other places. So next week, stay tuned for some updates on the wildfires. It looks like we'll also get a little dip here in Colorado, potential cloudiness, and then as that system comes through on the 8th and 9th, that's when things are going to cool down here, and we'll have another opportunity for some snow here in the central part of the United States. Looking at the East Coast, again, that's that Hurricane Ida. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but there will be a low pressure system. There will be a low pressure system off the southeast producing some general precipitation there over the southeast. And also what's interesting to look at is Europe as well. Europe has, as we take a look, let me bring back the clouds again real quick, just to show you guys something here. So here's Europe right here. And what I can see is, as I produce this one, so last week I mentioned also that there was some winter storms or some wind storms that was hitting northern Europe, and so that came through. It did cause a little bit of damage in northern Europe. But what is going on right now is it looks like there is a high pressure system right off of the coast here. And how can I tell that? Well, it's because the system, the clouds, are rotating clockwise. You can see that right here. They're rotating clockwise. And so that is a ridge of high pressure steering the clouds up and over. So the next couple days for Europe is going to be kind of nice weather. But then as we look at the model, then after that, several days of rain. And that's their basic weather. That's their usual weather for northern Europe. Is a few nice days followed by a plethora of cloudy days. So here's that high pressure system as it goes through, and then they're going to get one low pressure system here, followed by another low pressure system after that. You can see that dip right there. So I can also see that in our wind forecast model here too. So these are winds. This is at a higher elevation. This is called the jet stream. So this is what steers those systems around. And as we look at Europe right there, look at that rotating system. Let me back it up here. Here's that rotating system right there. That is that high pressure dome off the west coast. And that as that goes through, that's going to make some nice weather. But then we got this dip coming behind it. And that's going to produce some clouds there. So we can see these wind patterns from space. Speaking of Europe, the European Space Agency, ESA, has a satellite called Aeolus. And Aeolus takes a look at and can track these the particles in the atmosphere and can monitor the wind speeds around the world. So Aeolus is one satellite that helps us to see wind around the world, because we can't have detectors. We can't have wind detectors called anemometers at every point around the world. So we need satellite images to help us make sense of that. Another thing that we need is, thing that satellites help us with is precipitation. So here is a picture of a constellation that contributes to something called the Global Precipitation Measurement Mission, or GPM. And it's highlighted by one NASA satellite right here called GPM. This is the GPM Core Observatory. But all these other satellites contribute data to the system. Okay, and then another important one is the Suomi NPP satellite. We also get information from other countries' satellites, Japan satellites, ESA satellites, Italy, India. So we get information from other satellites too. And what that does is it gives us a global picture of precipitation. So here is a data set where it shows you precipitation around the world. And where I'm at right now, this is Asia. And you can see as I back up here, this is that Typhoon Malave as it hit the Vietnam and brought a lot of flooding. You can see all that precipitation wrapped up in that storm right there. And then as we bring this forward, you can see the typhoon that hit the Philippines right here. You can see that system right there. So that is Typhoon Goni, as it came ashore and dropped a lot of moisture there over the Philippines. And then as we take a look at the hurricane over Nicaragua and Honduras, that also had a lot of moisture in it too. So those satellite systems, and you can see how slow it was moving too. So that satellite system called GPM allows us to see global precipitation, how much moisture is falling, well, first in the atmosphere around the globe, and then two, how much is falling back to the earth around the globe. And that's really important for scientists to understand that water cycle. And that contributes to the satellites that I mentioned, SWOMI and GPM, also contributes to our ability to take a CAT scan, to actually take that storm and see through that storm. We have the ability not just to see the top surface, but we can actually see a CAT scan of the storm. And we can turn that into a 3D model. This is Hurricane Zeta as it came through, and this is a model of the energy in that storm. So using satellite imagery, we can see wind vectors, we can see winds around the world, and we can also see the distribution of precipitation. Gives us a better picture of what's going on and helps us to forecast the weather. Speaking of forecast, if you would like us to take a look at weather in your area, reach out to us. Send us a message on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram. You can also contact us at our website, discoverspace.org. Until next time, thanks for joining me using Science on a Sphere to take a look at weather around the world. Have a wonderful day.